Shalom, shalom, everyone. Welcome to the introduction to the counting of days according to YHVH. My name is Rodney, and I will be the host for today's study. So, a little disclaimer before we get started. This is not to convince anybody on whether they should keep the Shabbat or not. This is a study to find the position of the Sabbath day. And once we find the seventh day position, understand that that position never changes. Even though the day may change, the position of the seventh day never changes. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments, and I'll get to them just as soon as I possibly can. So with that being said, let's dig in. One of the things that kind of made me have to step back and say, was the fact of this right here. Let's take January the 7th as an example. Now we know that the seventh day of January, there's always going to be 7 days in January. That's never going to change. It's literally a position within the calendar, the seventh day of January. And I know that was kind of repetitious to say, but I really want that to sink in to your head when we go into the while we're going through this. The date 7th, that seventh day of the month doesn't change, but what about the day? So in January 2020, the seventh day of the month, the position was on a Tuesday. In January 2021, the seventh day, the position was on a Thursday. In 2022, the seventh was on Friday. In 2023, the seventh was on a Saturday. In 2024, the seventh was on a Sunday. In 2025, the seventh will be on a Tuesday again. So here's the problem that I found. Again, like I said, the seventh day of the month never changes. No matter what year it is, it's still the seventh day of January. The day of the seventh does change, and we saw that in example. Secondly, I think we have to remember that the days were never named in creation. They were only numbered. Now, one could say that the Sabbath was named, and yes, but no, because Sabbath is an action, not a day. We rest on the Sabbath. So here's the thing. The position of the Sabbath is the seventh day. And that position does not change according to man's calendar. It stays in the same position year after year. Now, later on in this video, we will see that the day changes, but the position of the Sabbath does not change. It remains the seventh day for eternity. So I made a list of a few Hebrew words that we must know to understand the context of the creation week. what is considered a day, etc., etc. So here's the list that I came up with. Hosek, which means darkness. Yom, which means day. Lail, which means night. Ereb, which is evening. And Boker, which is morning. All right, so let's jump into Bereshith, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. In the beginning, Yahovah created the heavens and the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of Yahovah was moving on the face of the waters. So I couldn't find, and I don't think that there would be a picture to illustrate the darkness of Genesis 1, verse 1 and 2. This is not the type of darkness of where you go outside and just because there's no street light, this is not country darkness where you still have the moon stars and all that, and you can see your hand in front of your face. This darkness is going deep into a cave and shutting off your flashlight and not being able to see your hand in front of your face. Because there is absolutely no light present. And this is why I was explaining this cannot be the start of the day because there was no light in this time period, and we don't know how long this time period was. So once the light appeared, this part just kind of became empty and void, per se. All right, guys. So I apologize for the change in the font. This is my first video, and so I got frustrated and I just said to heck with it. So we're just gonna flow with this. Hopefully the next video I'll be able to get the fonts right. All right. So Bereshit chapter 1 verse 3 through 5. And Yahovah said, "Let there be light," and light came to be. At this point, there was light. This is where the day started. And Yahovah saw the light, that it was good, and Yahovah separated the light from the darkness. And Yahovah called the light day, Yom, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning one day. So there I put in the Hebrew words just to kind of give you a visual of what I explained at the first of this video to understand what we're looking at here within the scripture. Read through scripture, and we saw in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 and 2, that the darkness was there, right? But we don't know how long that darkness was, that time period. It could have been 5 minutes. It could have been a day, a year, 10 years, 10,000 years. We just don't know. But to start the first day, Yahovah created the light, the separation from the darkness. And this is what started the first day. Then it became evening, and back to the separation between light and dark is night, and then comes morning, which in total becomes day one, the first day. So we know that they understood what a day was. For example, in Daniel chapter 6, verse 3, it says, But when Daniel learned that that the law had been signed, he went home and knelt down as usual in his upstairs room with its windows open towards Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done, giving thanks to his God. So Daniel was praying 3 times a day. Doesn't say anything about night. It says day. So when was Daniel praying? Right here, right here, and it's only assumption, but I'm guessing maybe around lunchtime for us, maybe, and then right here because he thanked his Elohim for waking him up. He prayed to his Elohim, thanking him for the day, and then he prayed the third time, thanking Elohim for the entire day, and maybe to keep him safe throughout the night, to be able to wake up for the next morning. I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm just trying to put out a visual there. Oh, I went too fast. Anyway, so in Nehemiah 3, and they stood up in their place and read from the book of the Torah of YHVH, their Elohim, a fourth part of the day. And a fourth part they were confessing and worshiping YHVH, their Elohim. So a quarter of the day and a quarter of a day. A quarter of the day they were reading the Torah, and a quarter of the day they were confessing and worshiping YHVH, their Elohim. And then in John 11:9, Messiah answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. So again, Messiah said he was coming to do the Father's will. So I believe that without it having to be said, he understood what a day was, right? So let's go on to the next screen. So I think it's very important to discuss this because we have 3 different opinions on what a day actually is. We have Messiah and YHVH the Father saying that 12 hours a day, there's 12 hours in a day. We have the Jews saying that from sundown to sundown is a day. And then we have man saying that a day is from 12 midnight one night to 12 midnight the next night. So we've got to ask ourselves, who's right? Man, the Jews, or Yahovah the Father and Messiah the Son? Because somebody's wrong here. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm pushing for Messiah and Yahovah the Father and what they say, not what man says or what the Jews say that a day is. I'm going to go with the one who created it and the messenger that came to teach us how to determine it correctly. So here we are, the fourth day of creation in Genesis 1:14 through 19. And YHVH says, "Let lights come to be in the expansion of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the expansion of the heavens to give light on the earth. And it came to be so. And YHVH made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, the stars." Now I want to point out that I put the "and" in parentheses and in red. When we look at the Hebrew, this "and" is not even included. That was put in by the English translators. So it doesn't even say "and the stars," it says "the stars." And YHVH set them in the expansion of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And YHVH saw that it was good, and there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the fourth day. So I know there's a lot of people out there that thinks that the Apocrypha does not agree with Scripture, but we see in Jubilees 2, verse 8 through 9, says, "And on the fourth day he created the sun and the moon and the stars, and set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon all the earth, and to rule over the day and the night, and divided the light from the darkness. And YHVH appointed the sun to be the great sign on the earth for days and for Sabbaths, and for months and for feasts, and for years and for Sabbaths of years, and for jubilees, and for all the seasons of the years." So YHVH did not just create these things for him. I think it's a beautiful thing that he did create them, and the fact that man was in the plan, because these signs were for man to count the days of the year. So he actually had the signs up in the heavens before he ever even created man. And so that means that, yes, he had planned to make man, and he was giving him all the tools that he needed to count the days of the uh to count the days and the months and the years and all that. And again, I had highlighted the and on this next slide we're going to see why I wanted to show you that it's important that the fact that it was added kind of makes it wrong, because we're under this assumption that this verse is talking about the sun and the moon, but it's actually talking about the sun and the stars. So Nowhere in Scripture are we commanded to use the moon to find these days or feast or anything like that. The moon just is not included. Again, I know a lot of people think that the Apocrypha does not agree with Scripture, but I showed you in the last slide that Jubilees chapter 2 definitely did agree with Genesis chapter 1. But let's go to Jubilees chapter 6, verse 36 through 37. For there will be those who assuredly make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year, 10 days too soon. For this reason, the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order and make an abominable day, the day of testimony, an unclean day, a feast day. And they will confound all the days, the Kadesh with the unclean, and the unclean day with the Kadesh. For they will go wrong as to the months and the Shabbats and the feast and Jubilees. So right here in Jubilee 6, we see that if we observe the moon or use the moon to count these days, we are going to literally be 10 days off. We're going to be 10 days too soon from the actual appointed time. Now, a lot of people will argue, for example, this verse right here, 2 Kings 4:23. And he said, why are you going to him today? It is neither a new moon, and in the Hebrew, we see this word moon as Hodesh, which actually means month. And you can look that up in the Hebrew just to fact check me. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused, thinking that seeing that new moon, we're supposed to use the moon, but it's absolutely not the case. It's actually talking about the new month, going into a new month. So continuing, nor the Sabbath, and she said, it is well. Now, we're going to see the real Hebrew definition for moon, the big round thing up in the sky. In Deuteronomy 4:19 it says, "Unless you lift your eyes up to the heavens, and shall see the sun and the moon, Yare, which is for moon." This is the Hebrew. This word right here is the Hebrew word for the physical moon. Not right here, not month, the Hodes, but the moon that you see up in the sky. This is your Hebrew word right here. So that's how we know if we're saying that this moon right here is this right here, we're mistranslating it. And that's why here in Jubilees, it makes it correct. Continuing, and the stars and all the host of the heavens, and you will be drawn away into bowing down to them and serving them, which YHVH, your Elohim, has allotted to the people under all the heavens. This is even giving us a warning about worshiping the signs. We are not worshiping the signs, we are only using them as tools to understand the counting of the days. And it is crucial to use these tools that YHVH created to be accurate in these counting of days. All right, here we're at the 7th day, and yes, we skipped day 5 and 6, and I'm not trying to belittle them or say they're not important by skipping them, but again, this is a study of the numbering of days, and I'm hitting the highlights. So we're trying to find the position of the Sabbath day and where it lies within creation. So in Bereshit, Genesis chapter 2, verse 1 through 3, thus the heavens and the earth were completed, and all their array. And in the 7th day, Jehovah completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And Jehovah blessed the 7th day and set it apart, because on it he rested from all of his work which Jehovah in creating had made. So as we continue this study, and you're probably like, Rodney, okay, I get it, the position of the Sabbath. But we're going to see that that position never changes, even according to the quote unquote calendar of Yahovah. So I made you guys a little bit of a visual for the first month to the quote unquote calendar. But I hope this guys can kind of give you guys a visual to where you understand where I'm going with this. Let me get my right pen. So right here is your Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 and verse 2, the darkness. Right here is where Yahovah creates the light. The evening and the morning, the first day, verse 3 through 5. And so he calls the darkness, or he renames the darkness night, which causes a separation between the first day and the second day and the third day, between all of the days. The separation between the days is called night. So we see this play out in verse 3 through 5 for day 1, verse 6 through 8 for day 2, so forth and so on. You can see it for yourself. And we get to day 7. So this position, as I've said about 100 times throughout the video, this position does not change. So we know that the commandment is to work 6 days and then rest on the 7th. So if this is the position of the Sabbath, we work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days Sabbath. Position is the same. Start work here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sabbath. Again, of work day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And my pen got a little bit faster than me, so that's all right. Sabbath. So some of you guys might be a little confused and you're like, well, Rodney, there's only 30 days in month 1. we still keep the commandment of working 6 days and resting on the seventh. Day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this day is going to be the Shabbat. The relevance of the end of the month, and we're going to see this in the next slide. Some days have 30 days. Some months have 31 days. But we do not restart the count with the new month, because that would throw off the count of the work days. Now suppose the new month started right here. If we count from this day, we're already 2 days in of work, but we're going to add 6 days because we're starting over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be your 6th day of work. So this is where your Shabbat would land, which is already breaking the commandment, because at this point, you've already worked 8 days before you get to the Shabbat. No good. So what if you started right here as your first day and started to recount? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's your Shabbat. Well, how many days have you worked since this Shabbat? 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days before your Shabbat, before the Sabbath. Again, breaking the commandment of 6 days you shall work, and on the seventh you rest. So maybe this whole calendar thing will hopefully come together for you on the next slide a little bit better. So let's dig in. I made this chart, and it's based on creation week, the 364-day year, and the 52 Sabbaths in a year. And we see in Jubilees 6:30 says, and all the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days. So if there's 52 weeks, there's going to be 52 Sabbaths. And these will make the entire week, the entire year complete. So we see in this chart, there's 52 Sabbaths, and we end the year on this 52nd Sabbath. That will complete the year according to Jubilees chapter 6, verse 30. And with that being said, the 52nd Sabbath aligns with Jubilees chapter 6, verse 32. And command you, the children of Israel, that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days, and these will constitute a complete year, and they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feast, for everything will fall out in them according to their testimony, and they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast. So again, 52 Sabbaths makes 364 days. Now, if you're looking at this chart, you might see these two boxes right here with the X's in them. That's day 365 and day 366. So right here in the 7th month, there's a time out of time. This represents when time stood still with Joshua. So we're in a future video, we're going to get into this a little bit more, but right here on the first day of the 7th month, you're going to have 1 or 2 days, and we're going to see a straight line shadow either the first day or the second day. If we see the straight line shadow on the first day, we'll only use one of these days. If the straight line shadow lands on the second day, we will add 2 days on to the end of the year. Now, these 2 days right here, the sun comes up and the sun goes down, but they are not counted within the year. They are an extension of this. There's really no rules for it. So you can either extend your Sabbath, you can work, whatever you want to do in these 2 days. The sun is still going to come up, the sun is still going to go down. They're still relevant. They're just not counted within this calendar. So once we get past that, we go back in to the first week of creation. This day 1 right here is going to be your 31st day for the 12th month. Remember in the last slide I said that there would be months that have 30 days and months that have 31 days. And this is what the layout looks like. 30 days in month 1 and 2, 31 days in month 3, so forth and so on. You guys can kind of pause and look. So that 31st day is going to start the first day of creation, 2, 3, and then we're going to look for the straight line shadow on the 4th day, and we're going to see that straight line shadow on the 4th day. You don't back up a day, and you don't go forward a day. This day right here that we see the straight line shadow is the first day of the year. 5th day, 6th day, Sabbath. And then we start all over for the next year. Why is this so important to understand this? In Isaiah chapter 1, verse 13 through 15, YHVH says, "Stop bringing futile offerings, incense. It is an abomination to me. New moons," which we understand from the previous slide that moons is not moon, it's months. Sabbaths, the calling of gatherings. I am unable to bear unrighteousness and assembly. My being hates your new months and your appointed times. They are a trouble to me. I am weary of bearing them. And when you spread out your hands, I hide my eyes from you, even though you make many prayers. I do not hear you. Your hands have become filled with blood. So the creator of the heavens and the earth is literally saying that if we do not follow this blueprint, our keeping of Sabbaths and feast days are just something else. They're not his. So if we're not going by this blueprint, again, we're not keeping anything correctly. What are we keeping at that point? Even though it's very simple to find with proper study, it's really easy to find this stuff. We just have to be willing to look for it and accept that it's not what we've been taught in the past, but what YHVH has actually already set in place for us. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your time sticking around, and I hope that this was informative for you and kind of got you on your trail to finding out how to count the days according to how Yahavah has set them out for us using the signs of the sun and the stars. And we'll kind of dig into the moon thing later. But I just wanted to basically give you guys a basic rundown what it was. Um, so just stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe, like, and if you enjoyed the information on here and would like to share it with your family and friends, we would love for you to do that. So for now, I bid you shalom, shalom.